Hello, everybody. Welcome to the final session of INOCON2020. We're so glad that you guys could join us today, and we're going to be talking a bit in our keynote conversation on innovation and trends in the industry. So for a few quick introductions, my name is Jacob Lapidus. I'm currently a student set to graduate tomorrow.
Wait a minute, Lapidus? I thought it was Lapidus.
It's to telemarketers sometimes, but it really, it'll depend. But well, this year I've currently been serving as the label manager for Disruption Records, Berklee Valencia's independent label. Now, our esteemed guest today, Scott Cohen, the CIO, Chief Innovation Officer of Warner Music Group, is a really guest speaker for us, and I think perfect to have this conversation on innovation and trends. Just a bit of Scott's background. He's always been a forward thinker and someone who's a trailblazer in the digital space, the tech space, and across music. He grew up actually getting into music, giving advice to his friends' bands, and then became a manager. One of his first most notable achievements was co-founding The Orchard, one of the very first digital distributors back in 1997. And since then, he's gone on to serve on the boards of a number of forward-thinking companies, from Sound Diplomacy, which consults on state music policy, all the way up to the UN, to Cyborg Nest, which is looking at the integration of technology and the human mind. So now, is there anything else you'd like to add, Scott, or say before we really get into things?
No, but I'm happy to be here. And the comments are already pouring in. So hello, everyone. Ciao, bonjour, hola.
We love to see this. So we've been really fortunate this year to see a lot of you, Scott, actually as far back as Future Music Forum in late August of 2019. You came and gave one of the keynotes talking about social media, the importance of understanding your audience, ownership over fans and data, the basics of blockchain. And then you actually came to Berklee Valencia's campus to help us better understand your history with The Orchard, some of the outdated business models and problems that no longer need to be solved. And what really actually struck me looking back at some of the notes was which really do seem to be a lot of what people are thinking about more presently today. And we can get into those in a bit more depth, but just sort of to prime everybody and get us on the same page. I think we've all been living through an unprecedented first half of 2020, but to provide some background, would you mind sharing with us, from your perspective, what a few of the watershed moments have been for the music industry in 2020 so far? What are some of these seismic shifts that you've already sort of witnessed in the past few months?
Well, the first thing to understand is global pandemic or not, nobody stopped listening to music, which is an amazing thing, and which also meant that from our side, whether it's Warner Music Group or our artists and their managers, they didn't stop working either. Although there was one day where the show must be paused, every other day the show went on, and found ways to fill the gap for the things that couldn't be done, particularly around travel and live shows. But other than that, it's been actually extraordinary. And what I've seen is, if we discuss things in the past, whether it was at FMF in Barcelona or coming to the school, and we were talking about things as theoretical in the future, well, all that's been accelerated and it's now the present.
Right, absolutely. And I think that's, what is one of the most striking things to think that, us talking about the importance of interactive experiences or spontaneous connections with strangers, people, being more participative, or data that's more predictive and actionable, whether you're talking about voice or streaming or even the back end of how we're serving these artists. So,
yeah, I mean, sorry to interrupt, but
no, of course.
For all of you that know me already, I'm Jewish. I'm from New York. It's what we do. We interrupt, but sorry, where was I? I interrupted myself. Oh yeah. I mean, I can think back. Even when I was talking to people 6 months ago, a year ago, talking about how kind of the live show will change and things are moving online, and later we'll have VR, but we'll have AR and online experiences. And a lot of people rolling their eyes like, yeah, that's never going to happen. And by the way, that's the only thing happening now. This is the way, and it's not going away.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I would love to dig a little bit deeper there and sort of, now that we've addressed some of the major root causes, going into some of the symptoms, or actually sort of unpacking where you think that chicken and the egg kind of does begin. Because we've seen, tech leading the way for the music industry for decades.
Centuries.
From the gramophone through, digital.
Well, you can go even further back, that a musical instrument is a piece of technology that allows whatever creative thoughts you have in your brain to be expressed.
Absolutely. And on the flip side of that same coin, we see consumer behavior and the way that fans are engaging, thinking, and interacting with one another. So for you, where are these shifts being driven from? Do you see new technology emerging? Or do you see these consumer habits sort of leading the way? And what is do you think is sort of the key driver?
I think we're right at the inflection point. We're right at the inflection point. And so this is an exciting time for a long time to be in the music industry, probably in the last 20 years, the most exciting time. Because the inflection point is this: it's not that there's necessarily a lot of new technology. There's a lot of technology that's been hanging around for a long time that hasn't been fully adopted by either the industry or the consumers. And that's kind of the chicken and the egg, streaming, shows online, for instance, like TV shows or movies had been around a long time. And when Netflix started creating their own content like Breaking Bad, holy shit, things started happening. So I think we're right at that inflection point. So yes, people have been doing lots of online concerts in their bedrooms. People have played around and dabbled in VR and AR. But now what you're going to see are the great artists. The great artists start to lean into this and go, all right, now that everyone's done it and enough people are connected, let me create something mind-blowing. How am I going to do something that they haven't seen before and it's going to blow their minds? And I'm telling you, these are the things we're going to see over the coming, I don't know, I'm never on timelines, but I hope that we start shortly, that these artists, again, it's great artists. It's not like, this is what it always is. It's the great artists to lead the way, from any genre, to just say, whether it was, somebody that scratched a record and go, oh, what we could do? And rap over the top of that, or Jimi Hendrix hearing some feedback and go, let's not stop that. How do I turn this into something, And so I think this is the moment, and we're going to start to see artists shine, and we're going to start to see the industry shine, and then it's the consumers, the fans that are going to learn, and this will be the new.
Wow, that's really, really fascinating to hear. And I think hopefully we won't shift Warner's stock price too much during this next section, but I would love to dig in a bit and better understand how all of these different ideas that you've been mentioning are playing out in your current role.
Well,
go for it.
Yeah, no. Listen, whatever I say, I have to be super mindful, because this is not to tell you specifically what Warner Music Group is doing, because obviously lots of what we're doing is still private. It is a public company to, roll out the plans. But what I can try and do without giving away anything specific is to kind of talk about where we're moving, what trends are moving. And, my role at the company has, in large part, has been interfacing with, our data teams and our tech teams with recorded music to bring that even closer together. Rather than, tech is over there, recorded music, and the artists are over here. But how do we merge that seamlessly so it feels completely natural, instead of just this kind of arm's length distance? And that's a big part of what I do.
Mm-hmm. That's I mean, that sounds like the like the work that needs to be done, because so often those worlds do exist in separate places. And of course, we're not looking to pry too much or put you in a difficult situation, but to whatever extent of detail you're comfortable with and it is legally viable. I would love to hear. I think we would all love to hear about a few of the exciting projects that you've started working on, or startups you've started to collaborate with.
I don't know that I can give you any specifics on that. This is the hardest part about my role, and right. It is, because if things haven't launched, I can't tell you what's about to come.
Right.
But what I can say is, by being at this intersection and this interface between our tech and data and our labels relationship with artists, we are going to change that. And we have a mandate at this company that however we come out of COVID-19, the lockdowns, the quarantines globally, we're not going to just come back as business as usual. That is clear. We are going to transform the way we engage with music fans, with our artists, with our own staff, that it isn't just like, hey, it's over, let's send 4,000 people back into offices. That it's not that we don't have offices, it's not that we don't have people, but it gives an opportunity to think, why are we doing what we're doing? What should we be doing? What is there a better way to do things? It's interesting because during this period, I've never been so busy as this. So like, I'm on video calls from morning till night, till I go to bed, and so being completely busy, yet trying to find those moments of reflection where we can say, let's step back. What are we trying to achieve here? What's our mission? Like, what are we doing? And how are we supporting the staff at Warner? How are we supporting our artists? Because it's going to be a transition for them. So how are we helping them to cross over in this and not get left behind? And that is really important work that as an organization we're doing. It's not me personally. It's as an organization we provide as much as we can to allow our staff to be creative and work in new ways, to allow our artists to continue to create and find new ways to do that and new ways to engage with fans. And again, I hope I'm not being too general here, but I can't give you a specific example.
No, I think that's a great starting point, and I think is an extremely important point to mention, because as creative, or as an operator in the creative industry, if you're not taking care of the creative, both for your staff and for your artists, your data analysis can be as sound as you want, or your admin can be a well-oiled machine, but if the outcome and the art isn't connecting, then you're dead in the water.
Yeah, and by the way, without diminishing all the negative things about COVID-19, with the effects it's had on the global population, from people dying and getting sick to people not being able to pay their bills or see their loved ones. Putting all that aside and recognizing how important that is, it's not just negative. We've seen our artists have an opportunity to actually get closer to their audiences in a digital way than they ever were before, which kind of seems odd, that you would think that they could go out in the world and be closer. But we've actually seen this screen in front of us bring people much closer. This leaning in and looking and seeing, where is this person? What is their bedroom look like, or their kitchen? And making it all very real. And because they're not out traveling in the world touring, finding other ways to connect with audiences and literally connecting with them. And that, I think, is something that we should carry through after the whole pandemic resolves, which I hope it will happen in the next 10 or 20 years. Let's get a vaccine.
or we'll realize we're out, I guess. I think that's, a fantastic point, and I think also kind of ties into this broader theme that I would love to explore from you, which is this notion of major label innovation. Some of the creative companies with some of the most resources and connections in the world. And from your perspective, how you feel the innovative strategy or the innovation strategy at Warner differs from the other majors, where we've seen, lots of acquisitions, lots of movements on tech, but we've also seen companies like Sony enter the podcasting arms race with the DSPs, the digital service providers. We've also seen Universal do branding deals with companies like Lego. And, across the board, more holistically, how do you feel like this approach at Warner has been evolving? And particularly, how do you feel like you've been impacting it since you joined last January? Yeah,
in some ways, maybe we haven't been as public about some of the things we're doing in terms of like press releasing it. I think in some ways we're actions speak louder than words. We're doer rather than talk about it. Just do it, and Warner's been quite effective. But at any given moment, the number of POCs, proof of concepts, trials we're running with new tech, like we are very deep into things like the blockchain and VR and AR and gaming. These are not little side projects. These are transformative things that we are trialing. I won't say experimenting, but we're well aware that the music industry is constantly changing and technology is changing it. So we're not waiting to see what the change is. We're actively participating and catching that. How people consume, where they consume, that is constantly changing, and how people create and what they create, constantly changing. So you've all heard me talk about things like VR and AR. So be assured we're very deep in that world. Gaming, we're also deep. You've heard me talk about Roblox. So it's a company I absolutely love and respect. And I think there's huge opportunities there.
Right. Yeah, that's, a really, really excellent point that, how much it's more of an iceberg of innovation where so much is taking place beneath the surface that sometimes what a press release might be showing is not fully indicative of maybe the whole narrative or the infrastructure that someone is building out.
Yeah, and I think, you're seeing the innovation. It's funny, there's this narrative that it's not happening at the major labels like Warner, but that's when you look at reality, all the biggest services in the world, all the things that we use, think about who was there first and who's succeeding in those. And it is, the large companies. And I don't know if you read last year when I talked about Roblox, it was interesting because most people in the music industry had never heard of them, the size of it. And particularly when you talk about a company that has what the music industry would consider its target audience, the 8 to 18-year-olds, and there's 115 million of them logging in every month. And I saw a stat yesterday, half of American children between 9 and 12 use Roblox. Half.
Oh, that is crazy. For so many people in the industry to not have heard of it, especially.
Right. So I guess what I'm saying is it's shifting, and as the music industry is always going where it's shifting, and the advantage that the music industry has over other forms of entertainment, like, let's say, games or video, is that music is that thing that you can do while you're doing something else. I can listen to music while I'm driving. I can listen to music while I'm working out. I can listen to music while I'm working and have it in the background. And so music becomes ubiquitous, where the other things you have to stop what you're doing and only do one thing. Music is part of all of it. And often that other thing that you have to do, whether it's gaming or Netflix, by the way, contains music. So this is the great advantage of music. And what's also great is I'm starting to see a large number of artists remembering what the power of that actually is. That when you're in people's ears, you are in their heads. When you're in their ears, you're in their heads. And I think over the past period, maybe artists forgot how important that is. You know, you could go back to the late 60s and early 70s, and artists had a voice and literally changed the course of events globally because they spoke out about stuff. They stopped a war in Vietnam, for instance. Right. Now, I think the last period, you've seen more tech companies speaking out. You've seen more comedians, taking a view. And because of the recent events, I'm starting to see more artists start to own that narrative again and say, wait a minute, we're in people's heads, we have something to say, and we're going to make a change. Mm-hmm. And that is truly exciting. So you add that to this technology shift that we're right on right now, that this is a great time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just even hearing you break that type of stuff down is extremely, extremely exciting to me. And I think there's probably time for us to ask one more question. I have a million questions for you, of course, but I'd love to get some time for Q&A as well. So if anyone else has questions for Scott based on something that we've already spoken about or something new, feel free to drop it in the questions tab, and I'll be pulling out a few of those for us to answer before the end of the session. Just while people get their additional questions in, I'll ask one more. And it's kind of going off of what you just said, and it's around the idea of conscious innovation. I think sort of an adage that's more traditionally really popular in the startup space is this idea of move fast and break things. But we're seeing sort of an awakening socially, culturally, in a number of levels in our society in the first half of this year alone, where we find people being a bit more mindful or a bit more aware of these different interlocking issues. Where do you see innovation taking us, both from the artist side or the music business side, when it comes to doing more around social change and civil rights advocacy?
Yeah, I think music, both the artists but also the companies, have found their voice again around lots of issues, whether it's social justice issues. I mean, you saw that Warner Music Group and Lem Blavatnik set up $100 million fund. Like, we're fixing this, not fixing the whole problem, but we're part of making this right. Just look at an artist like Coldplay. Pre-COVID was like, do we really want to tour? We want to play, we want to get in front of fans, but at what cost to the environment? What's the carbon footprint of touring? And by the way, the biggest part of the footprint is the fans going to the venue. Like, it's massive. It's a massive negative impact on the environment. And so you're starting to see artists go, do I really want to be part of that? How can I entertain them? How can I involve them without destroying our planet? And so if you add that to things like, the issues around diversity and inclusion and equality, and with even specific movements around Black Lives Matter, which falls under that. Once again, super exciting time. Artists are not just quietly sitting down and saying, I hope I get enough streams. They're going, I'm going to use my voice and I'm going to change the world.
Right. And, it's up to us on the business side, I guess, to either ideally augment that voice and stay out of the way as much as possible on top of that.
Yeah, that's our job, to support them. We're not telling them what to say or what to do or how to do it. We're saying, what do you need to be effective? What do you need to create your art? What do you need to speak to your audience? How can we help you accelerate that? How can we help you globalize that? That's our job, to help create global superstars. And these superstars are not like, one-dimensional, pop artists. They're a voice of a generation, and they have impact, and they're artists. And our job is to expose that to the world.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's, an excellent perspective and a really promising one and a comforting one to hear coming from an executive from a major label in this time. And I think we're all really excited to hear sort of that coming from you, and also to hear what's coming from Warner and where these artists are all moving as they're expanding their voices. Now, I'd love to open it up to some questions. We've got some really interesting ones in the chat. I'm going to go with Amara to begin, and I'll just read this out to you since she was first. Oh. So this is, of course, about performances and live streaming. We've not talked about this enough today, of course, but I think a nice way to frame this that we've talked about before could be, where do you see those biggest shifts coming, where people are engaging really well online right now? And then as we move back to or past these lockdowns and begin to open up, what do you think will stick and what do you think might revert back?
Of course, lots of artists are going to want to go back to playing live shows and performing. And I'm not saying that that's going to end instantly, but I also think that think of how many of you have your parents and grandparents doing Zoom calls now. That's totally natural. Like, it's not a weird thing anymore. So, nor is an online gig. What I think we're going to very quickly see is, okay, the online gig is okay, but what's better? And, so you saw, Travis Scott in Fortnite go, this is better, right? That's cool. So what other things are we going to keep pushing that's going in one direction? That's not going away. We're not going to that's not going to happen as a couple of one-offs and then never happen again. This is here to stay. It is a method that artists can express themselves and reach audiences is online. It used to be online, like, downloads, online streaming, online social media, online YouTube videos. Now it's online as in some sort of performance. And it'll happen as in actual people performing, but it'll also happen in terms of, avatars and in virtual reality that it'll morph and change and expand. And then, you have to imagine what's going to happen when, things like 5G actually launches and some of the benefits around that when we reduce latency, because that is, we're on these video calls, all of us, and we're, there's times when, connection's a little poor or you're out of sync because things are just off a little bit. But there's going to be some technologies coming around latency so that things will sync much better. And that's going to open up a whole new world of possibilities.
Absolutely. Another great example of technology driving behavior in that case.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, I think we have time for one more student question before we wrap up. And I'm going to do my best to combine Alejandro and Tobias's questions because I think they're kind of treading in the same territory.
And you ignore Wesley.
I do really like Wesley's question, especially because, these days, for so long, these advancements were pushing artists to innovate musically, and now we see it innovating more interpersonally, get in front of a webcam and engage with your audience, which is a tough balance to strike. Based on, cumulative upvotes, I'll be democratic here. And we can ask this one final piece about where areas or technologies, platforms that you feel like are currently being slept on or underutilized, particularly from an artist revenue standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that historically has been underutilized, like VR and AR. What I found interesting was, somebody that, if you wanted to buy an Oculus Quest or a VR headset pre-COVID, pretty easy. After COVID, out of stock, sold out, impossible to find. And so they weren't, some companies responded very quickly to meet this demand. So what I feel bad about is VR could have had its moment during this, but because they everything from supply chain issues, and they just got caught flat-footed and weren't ready and couldn't respond. But I think that again, it goes through stages. It goes, first there's a live show, then there's a live show that's kind of online, then it's online live, but recognizing that it's online, so you do things differently, to creating something that you hadn't seen online that you don't do live, but you can do it because it's a video and it's different, to adding AR elements to it, because that's really simple to do. If you have a phone, you can do it. AR is simple.
So that this week at INOCON, actually.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of people, you ask them if you like, no, never. It's like, really? Have you ever tried Google? Okay, then you've used AR, like putting a digital layer on top of the physical world. So then you do that, which leads into a VR environment. So you just kind of have to go through the stages. I can't predict ever what are the companies that are, or the platforms that are going to succeed, or what's the exact timeline, but that's understanding the stages and where we are is really important. And that is not going away. That's only going to grow.
Some really, really wise words coming from Scott here. Thank you again so much for coming. And just to really wrap things up, we have over 100 Berklee Valencia master's students graduating tomorrow. And we would just love to hear any final thoughts, parting advice, or words that you have for us as we can stay innovative in our own careers.
Well, it's interesting because, everyone's graduating in this time, but the Berklee master students, the 100 or so Berklee master students, you're not alone in this. If you graduated from a community college in the States or Harvard University, everyone went through the same issue. So it's not unique to you, which is good. Two is, you are graduating at the exact time when the world is changing. That is when you want to be entering this world, not the old world. You're now fresh into the new world, and it should feel absolutely natural. And don't wait for opportunities to come around. Just start doing shit. Don't think about shit, do shit, and then the world will come to you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all so much for joining us, and thank you to Scott for taking time out of his busy week, month, and summer, clearly, as Warner is rocketing towards the future. Thank you again to the INOCON team, and this will conclude INOCON 2020. We're moving on with the commencement concert following this, so please stay tuned, and we'll be back with you shortly. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Hi, guys. I wanted to jump in here real quick and say thank you. Thank you, Scott, for being here. Thank you, Jacob. I am the creative director and producer of the first edition of INOCON. We were so excited to put this on. Truly, I want to thank my team, our advisors, Pablo and Alex and Berklee, for your continuous support in making this happen. This was truly, as a creative director, this was a dream. Simultaneous hubs, live performances, as all of you guys tuned in. So thank you so much for all of your support.
Hello, guys. I'm Eric Hernandez from Lima, Peru, and I'm the Sponsorship and Communications Manager. First of all, I want to give a big shout out to Katie Williams, the Marketing Director, and Alicia Napier, the Sponsorship Assistant. We want to thank you, all of you, for coming here today. We really appreciate it, and I hope you really enjoyed it.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gio Schipani. I'm from Italy, and I'm the technical director of the show. I want to just give a big shout out to our post-production team, led by Jorge Vidal, Daniel Prophet, Carlos Sierra, and Connor Michael for doing such an amazing work with all the videos. See you later.
Hello, guys. I'm Luis from Mexico City. I'm the production manager of this whole conference. Please stay tuned. We still have amazing stuff coming on. And thank you for tuning in. Love you all.
Hi, I'm Henny from Germany, and I was in charge of all the speakers and the panels and moderators. I want to thank you all, thank the speakers, thank the attendees for being here and interacting and being amazing audience and amazing content which we received. So next on, we have the commencement concert. Please tune in. And also at 9 p.m., the after party and our Instagram channel, INOCON2020. Thank you so much. This is a wrap up. We love you all. Thank you. Bye.